Center here in the 89106 for All Things Juneteenth Reception 2022, where we're going to have a conversation with Ms. Helen Anderson Toland and Mrs. Opal in our great city of Las Vegas. We're going to now take a few moments to hear from some of the honored hosted guests for today's presentation. And this being brought to you by the National Juneteenth Foundation, the Juneteenth Nevada, the Village Foundation, LJP, Helen Toland Foundation, and the Unity Unlimited. So with that being said, I'd like to bring up now Ms. Deborah D. Evans to talk to us and welcome us for today's presentation.
Let's see. This is the side I come in. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us today in what we hope will be the first of many conversations, getting the wisdom from our elders. And today we want to thank Ms. Opal Lee for coming in from Dallas-Fort Worth and giving us some extra time. And of course, Ms. Helen Anderson Toland. We want to listen to them today and find out, well, let's say we've got 200 years of history almost that we're going to learn from. We don't know what the conversation is, but from what I have seen in the back, the two of them, they're already like two sisters. They've connected, and they're going forward and share their wisdom with us. I'd like to thank Dr. Marcia, and I do not see Dr. Marcia, who is our hostess here at the West Las Vegas Art Center. We want to thank her because she has opened the doors to us for an extra day that she would not have been here. You know, this is a very special occasion. We recognize it as a special occasion. And we're leading into the first anniversary of the Juneteenth National Independence Day holiday. After 27 years of advocacy, we've gone after it. We worked at it. Ms. Helen started in Ms. Opal started in
Oh, it's for over 40 years. I don't count.
Okay. Well, anyhow, 2016, she started walking to Washington. And from that time, she's met with a couple of presidents along the way. She was here in Las Vegas in 2019 for at the Shepherd's Breakfast, where she would not let go of Joe Biden. She made a point, and she got back to him and was able to spend some time with him in Washington at the signing table of the legislation. And, well, Ms. Helen, we're so happy that you're here with us. We recognize the things that you've done within the Clark County school system and with your foundation. And the two of you, like I said, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. Thank you both. And since I do not see Ms. Marcia Robinson, Dr. Marcia Robinson, I believe the next person we will bring up will be Ms. Linda Young, who will come in to give you a little bit of information about her foundation, and we'll move on from there.
Okay.
Oh, and please, I got to recognize Mr. Munford.
Yeah, Mr. Mumford.
Mr. Munford, while Opal is the grandmother of Juneteenth, Mr. Munford is Nevada Juneteenth. He was the one that got us the legislation here in Nevada in 2011, and I do want to thank him. He has been with me the whole time since, holding my hand and introducing me to everybody I need to meet.
Well, thank you. Hey, how about that from Miss Deborah D. Evans? Isn't she fabulous? She's also nice to work with, by the way. She and I are a little bit type A-ish, and we like all the details, and I don't say we worry about the details, but we want the details to be as clear and to clarify and to make sure things are, as the words say, Reverend, done decently and in order. Where are my amen people? Come on. All right, okay, I just want to make sure I got my amen people. Hey, I'm Linda Young, and I'm the president of the Village Foundation, LJP, And LJP is from Galatians 5:22-23. And LJP means love, joy, and peace. And all of us know we need more love, joy, and peace.
Yes.
So the Village Foundation works as an educational group to reach out to first our students, because remember, we were like them once before. When we look at our little young ones, we were young and people believed and lifted us up. And the word says, to whom much is given, much is what? Required. So we have to give back to the community and the Village Foundation as an educational group. We are made of educators, teachers, counselors, at the university level, at all levels, and we work to lift up the students through education and lift up the community through education. And I'm just going to wrap this up by saying, just last week, May the 7th, we had our Village Foundation Scholarship Program. March the 5th, we have a big fundraiser where we raise money. And then what we do as a nonprofit 501c3, we give all of our money away. And we give it all away to the community and to the students. We were able to successfully get 36 student scholarships. Is that a big one? 36 student scholarships. Last year we gave 41 student scholarships. So we work hard to raise money. And we work hard not only to give money, but to tell students that we believe in them, that the greatest gift we can give them is our belief, and we also believe that they will carry the torch that we have with Miss Opal and Miss Helen Toland. And by the way, I'm going to sit down because, you know, those of you who know me, I'm a former high school teacher, and we tend to go on and we repeat things 4 and 5 times so people can get it. But for Miss Toland, I told Miss Toland that after I was working with her, and she worked with me at the school I had when I was a principal, and I worked with her with all of her programs. But Helen Anderson Toland, H-A-T, I told her I gave her an acronym. Helen Anderson Toland is HAT. H-A-T, Helen Anderson Toland. That's her acronym. So I just want you to know, hat off to you, Miss Toland. And you know I got a ton of them, so I got enough hats for you. And so we want to say to those of you that are listening to us, this is just the beginning. We have a long road ahead. We've come a long way. But He didn't bring us this far just to bring us this far. We have a long way to go, and we are encouraging you to join arms with us and with all of us to come together and to believe that it is now the time to lift us all up in unity. So thank you so very much, and I'm very pleased to work with this group, and we'll continue to work with them in the future. Thank you, and Miss Opal, it's a pleasure. Miss Helen, it's always a pleasure. I know where you are, and I know how to get to you. So thank you. And Ramon, I couldn't be happier to see you again. Thank you. You have been such a stalwart in our community. You have done so many strong, powerful things, and your legacy is implanted in our community. So thank all of you, and thank all of you for coming out today.
Let's give out a round of applause. Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. Next, we're going to have some words from Mr. Wayne Smith from the Helen Anderson Toland Foundation, and he didn't know he was going to be speaking, it looks like. But we welcome you once again.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Wayne Smith. I am the president of the Helen Toland Foundation. And I just want to say what an honor it is for me to be standing here amongst you all, amongst these 3 great giants that we have here. Mrs. Helen Anderson Toland and Mrs. Opal Lee. What an honor it is for me to stand here before 2 women who are making history, have made history, and are having a conversation with each other about their history. what an amazing, amazing thing to witness. And I just want to give them not only that, but for our young people who will see this down the road and who will be inspired by the things that they have said and the accomplishments that have been made. What a wonderful opportunity for them as well. The Helen Toland Foundation was founded by Mother Toland a number of years ago, and our objective, our goal is to provide a voice for people in the community and to provide scholarships for people in the community. And just like Dr. Young said, we've given away a few scholarships, not quite as many, but nonetheless as successful. And so we also work very, very hard in the community. Mother Toland, for a number of years, has had yard sales in her home in which she has given that money back to students in Africa and who have graduated from their assigned degrees. So once again, I just want to say what an honor it is for me to be here and what an honor it is for me to stand and witness two legends having a conversation with one another. Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause. We would all like to, we have someone else here, I can't recognize him behind the mask, but I know he's not Zorro.
Good afternoon, Miss Mother Helen Toland. Mother Opal Lee, welcome to Las Vegas and to Congressional District 4. Good to see you, Ramon.
Good to see you.
This is beautiful.
It is.
Can we give these two extraordinary women a round of applause? I want to thank Dr. Linda Young and the organizers for this event. And I had the honor of attending the signing ceremony on June 21st, 2021, where President Joe Biden
That's right.
signed the Juneteenth federal holiday into law.
That's right.
And Miss Opal Lee was of course
It was right there.
right there, because not only is she the daughter of Texas, she is the grandmother for the Juneteenth movement.
Yes, she was.
And she has led this movement across the country from Texas to the nation's capital and now right here in Las Vegas. And I know we have esteemed people like former Assemblyman Harvey Mumford who helped to lead the effort for Juneteenth and celebrations here in our state's legislature. And I wanted to come by to just add my words of thanks to both of you. Mother Toland, you know how much I respect and admire you. We love you. Thank you for everything that you do, your passion. It's been beautiful to visit your home, to see your sculptures, to learn about our history and how great we are as Black people. You instill that. And now to have a school named after you here in our community speaks volumes as the first educator and principal here in our community. So to Mother Toland, thank you. I would like to present to you this congressional recognition for your richly deserved honor for being a pioneer in the great state of Nevada. It is my pleasure and privilege to express my sincerest appreciation for your significant contributions to our local community for many years to come, and I hope you continue to motivate and inspire us all. God bless you. And to Miss Opal Lee, who there were so many people around her at the signing ceremony with the president, I didn't get in the picture, but I am here now. So I want to present to you a certificate of special congressional recognition.
Thank you.
For the richly deserved honor for being a trailblazer.
That's right.
It is my pleasure and privilege to express my sincere appreciation for your diligent efforts to have Juneteenth declared a federal holiday.
Yes.
And you never forget how incredible you are and continue to inspire all of us.
That's right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
You can give the lady some kisses. I'm sure they'll appreciate this, girl.
I'll give us.
Oh,
There you go.
Thank you, Ramon.
There's no problem.
I love.
This This is beautiful, and we need more events just like this at the West
That's
Las Vegas Arts Center.
Can
Thank
we
you.
get it funded? Can we get that?
I will put it in appropriations.
What we'd like to also is to have some of the other sponsors doing the 2022 Juneteenth celebration here in our great state, in our wonderful city of North Las Vegas, and Henderson, for what they are contributing and bringing forth and making this all happen. We also have the Anthem, who is some of our sponsors for many of our programs, Health Plan in Nevada, Desert Road Productions, Hip Hop Entertainment, the library, the city of Las Vegas, and Blue Soul Production for who's putting forth this production for us today to be seen and to be historically legend for all those to see in the near future.
Could we ask Ms. Opal to tell us a little bit about Unity Unlimited? She was to follow Miss Helen,
Okay.
organization.
I see. She can just sit here because
Yes,
she's mic'd
she's
up.
mic'd up.
So
We-
we can
we
speak
do wanna-
loud enough so others can hear you, and we can move forward and have them understand your organization for us.
Unity Unlimited, Fort Worth, Texas, is doing an extremely good job of working with the young people in our neighborhoods. We are wanting them to be aware of our past. We want them to digest it. We want them to be sure that this never happens to us again. And it can, you know. So, Unity has programs, and Juneteenth's one of them. We have a parade, but now we do a caravan. And I lead the caravan. I walk 2.5 miles to symbolize that when Gordon Granger, a general, came to Galveston, Texas with 7,000 colored troops and told the enslaved that they were free. Now you think they didn't know it, but they did, because they had been praying at their watch night services on New Year's, praying, how is freedom coming? In what direction do we look for freedom? And so when they were told, and what happened, he nailed this General Order Number 3 to what is now Reedy Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church. And when the enslaved came in from their work, and somebody read that to them, we started celebrating, and we've been celebrating ever since. Does that answer your question?
Well, it's a start for which we can move forward on,
All right.
because we have acknowledged some of our other sponsors and so forth. But on behalf of all of us that's here in the room and those that will see this in the future, we're pleased to have you all talk about your lives in conversation.
All right.
Blue Soul Productions is an organization of productions that we're doing where we have an opportunity to speak to women and men as yourselves to tell us your story, to tell us, for people to know who you are, to be acquainted and have an opportunity for those that don't get to rub shoulders with you, that they can and think of you and bring you on and continue the legacy for which y'all have started. So with that being said and that being done, you all both were born in 1926.
Yes.
So was my mother.
My goodness.
My mother was born in 1926 as well. She's no longer with us, but the wisdom that she put upon me from those early years to understanding and to be the individual that I am today, she was also from the South, bred and reared in the South. So I'll start off with that. I'm from the city, but you ladies, as it was with my mother, you all grew up in a different environment and in such a different time with things and how they were going on. So I would just like to start off with possibly you giving us an overview of your younger days growing up in,
Marshall, Texas.
well, that's where you started from. So let's go from Marshall, Texas, and then we'll get to you, Ms. Toland, right after she hits on a few notes for me.
Shucks. I don't really know where to start, except I thought Marshall was ideal. I didn't know what a white person was in Marshall. There was a man who came around, he was called the L.B. Price man, because he sold the pots and pans and the sheets and the clothing from his car. So he was probably white. I saw him. And at the very end of our street past Wiley College, which is Wiley University now, there was a store called Moranto. They didn't look white to me. The family that ran that store, I guess, were the only white people I saw until I moved to Fort Worth. Fort Worth, it was a different ballgame. My mother had sold all the possessions in Marshall to follow my father to Fort Worth. He left because of, the situation was such that there were no jobs. The Depression, remember? He came to Fort Worth looking for work. He was gonna send for his family. He never got around to it. So she sold all the possessions we had, and if we left on Saturday, she was working in somebody's kitchen on Sunday. I attended Cooper Street School. It was later named Amanda F. McCarthy, first woman principal, and I attended it until my parents moved to the south side of town. They worked hard. They bought a house at the corner of Annie and New York Street, 940 Annie. And my mom had it fixed up so nice. But on the 19th of June, the paper says some 500 people gathered. They didn't want us there. And the paper says that the police who were there couldn't control the mob. When my dad came with a gun, they told him if he busted a cap, they'd let the mob have us. Our parents sent us to friends several blocks away, and they left under cover of darkness. Those people tore that place up. If I tell you they drug the furniture out and burned it. My parents never talked to us about it, not once. But they worked, and they bought another house.
Let me ask you a question on that note. How big was the house? So how many siblings did you have?
I had two brothers, there were three of us. It was a 2-bedroom house. It had a living room and a kitchen. We wanted the same thing they did. A decent place to stay, a job that paid enough for us to have food on the table, a school to go to, that we did in the neighborhood. But they didn't let us stay. And do you know? It's come full circle because I found out Habitat owned that lot and I tried to buy it from them. They gave it to me. And so I plan to build a house there.
So what's the part, I would ask then, when you look at it, what's the population of black people in Marshall now? Is it divided, Hispanic, black, white, what, to your knowledge?
Oh, to my knowledge, Marshall, I don't know what to tell you the population is now because you have a university there, Wiley University, and 200,000, maybe. I I think it's grown, but yet it stayed the same. I've been there a time or two.
Okay, all right.
The streets look the same. It's had a black mayor at one time. I don't think there's one there now. The university is thriving. So are some of the businesses. It's still the sleepy town it was when I was there.
I see. Well, with that note, I would, she mentioned about a principal, having a black principal. Ms. Toland,
Yeah.
we know historically you're the first female black principal in the state of Nevada.
Yes.
Now, with that being said, and that's a highly recognized honor, but give us some background before you became that black first principal here in Nevada.
I was born in Marceline, Missouri, May 3rd, 1926, to a single mother. She and I lived with my grandparents, her parents, through my childhood. There was my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, and me. And even though I was an only child, I was not a spoiled child. I was rather the child that the grandparents would say, bring me this, bring me that, do this, do that, and my mother, and my head was always in whatever they were doing. My grandmother said that my head was almost between her and the pot she was stirring. So I knew how to do a lot. My grandfather would take me out in the yard when he was planting corn, and he would dig a little hole. I'd drop in 3 or 4 or 5 grains of corn, and then he would cover it up. And this is how we planted our garden. In watching how they did everything, I look back now and see that they prepared me for work. And they would send me to the store. I went to the post office every day because we didn't have a street address, and our mail came to general delivery. We had all 8 grades of black people in a black school, in a 1-room black school. And our teacher's goal was that he would prepare us to do well in high school. And that he really did. When I graduated from the 8th grade, which was as far as that school went, the black kids in my class were scheduled to go to a high school that was 30 miles from Marceline. And the school bus would leave Marceline about 7 o'clock in the morning, go part of the way to that school, and pick up white children that they were bringing back to Marceline. And then people from that school in Dalton, Missouri would meet us in a car, the students in a car, and take them back to Dalton to high school. And they repeated that in the evening for us to get home. Well, those of you who don't know much about Missouri, I can tell you that the winter is cold, there is rain, there is snow, there is sleet, and there are missed buses and missed cars where kids might just have to be out in the open so the others could keep up with their regular route. So to avoid this, my mother had me go live with an uncle and aunt in Springfield, Illinois. As I look back now, this is what began to acquaint me with the bigger word. Not word, bigger world. My aunt and uncle did not push me as far as school was concerned, but they held their breath because the school that I went to, Fighton's High, was a mixed school with just under maybe 1,000 students, and I was this little black girl from a place nobody ever heard of, from a one-room black school. Well, when our first grades came out, I made A's, and everybody could relax. And I must say that during my time in high school, I worked after school in private families, keeping children, cooking supper, etc. And I never really worried about how I would make a living because I could always keep house, comb hair, and take care of children, but I wanted more than that. And that's not the way that I wanted to make my living. As far as what I wanted to be, it didn't matter as long as it was more than that. We could not even clerk in drugstores or dime stores. My aunt, who had taught school in Missouri, when she came to live in Springfield, could only get a job as a restroom person in a factory. So the lines were really drawn, and I really didn't know much about what went on in the world, or in business, or in stores, until I went to college. I'll stop there.
Well, I do, knowing that the locations of where you were brought up and born, I would ask, did y'all ever see the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, did it exist where you were born and raised up or in your travels?
I have no idea whether the 500 people that destroyed our place were Klan people or not, but I belong to a group called 1012 North Main Street, and it was a Ku Klux Klan Klaven. We have been able to purchase that building, and we're going to turn it into something positive. There was a Mr. Fred Rouse in the neighborhood who worked at one of the packing plants, Swift and Almost Packing. And they had this dispute going, about the wages. And he shouldn't have crossed the picket line as far as they were concerned. But the gist of it was that they hanged him for nothing, absolutely nothing. And so this building is going to carry Mr. Fred Rouse's name. And there are 7 or 8 small, they're not that small, nonprofit groups that are going to make this building something positive. I thought you ought to know.
Well, that's how come I asked, so that we know this is how come it's about a conversation. Mr. Toland, what about yourself? Growing up, did you have any kind of memory of incidences that happened with any other kind of not discriminatory organizations besides the Ku Klux Klan?
As far as I know, I never saw anything in terms of group discrimination. Like people marching or that kind of thing. It was not spoken about, and we were happy that my grandfather, who was the baggage man at the railroad station, had a job that for Marceline was an adequate wage. And so, no, but you have to also understand that Springfield, Illinois is the headquarters of Abraham Lincoln.
That's right. That's right.
And
right.
there was no togetherness between white people and colored people on anything. I mean, it was like you in your small corner and we're over here in our corner and we'll take care of this. And the only time I experienced togetherness was on election day. On election day, my aunt and other women stayed home from work, but because the politicians hired them to go back and forth in their cars and take people to vote. And other than that, my only other association with white people besides school was people that I worked for, took care of their children, cooked their supper, etc.
Well, now, I would say that on the little segue part with that being the domesticated part of your life, was what was one of the first things that you wanted to be, that you aspired to be, that you thought about and had a passion for?
All I knew were teachers and preachers and doctors in my neighborhood. I wasn't going to be a doctor, so it was going to be a teacher. And my mom was so proud of me. I finished high school at 16, and she was going to send me back to Marshall, to Wiley College. Oh, and I got married.
That one couldn't have been too bad now.
She was so disappointed. She wouldn't even go to the wedding at the church. And it took me 4 years and 4 babies to realize I was going to have to raise that husband too. You know, you men don't, you don't mature as fast as women. So I cut my losses and had nerve enough to go home to my mother and say, I'm ready to go to college now. And she says, I've got no money to send you to nobody's college. She says, I'll keep your children. I worked, I don't know how many jobs to get the money to go to Wiley in the fall. And I spent it. I bought the children a television so she wouldn't have to run all over the neighborhood looking for them, and I went to Wiley without a dime. They gave me a job in the college library, the bookstore. I didn't quit the job in Fort Worth because I didn't know what was going to happen. And my mom kept it during the week, and I'd come back and work it on the weekends, and she'd collect the check. Nobody knew the difference. The work got done. I finished Wiley in 3.5 years. I had 4 children at home. I got a job teaching that paid $2,000 a year. You can't feed no children, I don't care what age it is, on no $2,000 a year. I got another job. So, if I clocked in at 8, I clocked out at 3. There was a car waiting for me. I clocked in at Convair. It's called Lockheed Martin now. I clock in at 4 and off at 12. I still been working there, but they laid a bunch of us off.
I see. Well, Ms. Toland, what about yourself? What was one of the first things, it sounds like you were very fixated with education as well. Was that your first desire to be, or did you want to be a singer like Billie Holiday?
You cannot imagine now how much we did not know, or had not come, nothing much had come across our path in terms of the future, or in terms of jobs. I went to the University of Illinois because I took a test in Sangamon County, that's in Springfield, Illinois. They were giving away 5 scholarships, and I scored high enough to win one of them. And that's how I got to the University of Illinois. But had I not gotten there, I was going to the university in Jefferson City, Missouri, in Lincoln. And all I knew about Lincoln, because I'd never been there, but I knew that if I got there, I was going to find some way to make a living, you know, to eat and go to school. But to make a long story short, the summer that after I graduated, I worked in a factory that was out from Springfield, and the factory had something to do with firearms for the armed forces. And we poured TNT and got enough money to get started with things like books and so forth. But during college, I worked at the shipping department in the university library. That's how I was telling you about the books and interlibrary loans and how they were so dead when I asked them here about them. Well, that's how I learned that, working there. I also had meal jobs, that's MEAL. That means you go to either where you're living or a sorority or boarding house, and you help with either the serving of the meal, or you help with washing dishes, or that kind of thing, and for that you get your meal. So that's the way we went to school back then.
Well, now, were there particular individuals that mentored you in forwarding your career and your desires and passion in education?
No, because I was pretty much away from all the people I knew in Springfield. The difference between Springfield and what shall I say, where Champaign, Urbana was as great in thinking as it was in mileage.
I had, this lady's name was Hazel Harvey Peace, and she'd gone to Vassar. She was the vice principal at our high school, our Imperial High School. I don't think she weighed 120 pounds for anywhere. But if you've heard of that H.F. Hutton thing that says, when she spoke, we listened. She ran that school, and she made an impression on us. She didn't have to raise her voice, but we wanted to be like Miss Peace. We belong to the same church. I'm grown, mother of children. We're in the vestibule, and she says to me, young lady, put your shirt tail in. You think I didn't? When she was out of sight, I took it out. But she was a person to be reckoned with, and you long to be like Hazel Harvey Peace.
Well, now I was going to ask you, with that, as far as mentors and those that, what national, well, I guess it wasn't so much as national leadership, what individuals were the first individuals that you can recall that you maybe admired and wanted to really have an opportunity to be like them or to follow them?
Well, I watched the sororities on my campus as a Wiley. Couldn't afford to join them. when I was able to, I was impressed with the same project. I'm here to tell you that those young women, so now I'm one of them.
You was proudly of it and well represented to it. Ms. Toland, did you have a national figure or somebody that you can recall that were making strides and doing things for black people? Or Negroes back in those days?
We had on the campus, we had a group of people who were both students and townspeople. And we had our club, and during the time that I was there, we were instrumental in desegregating the restaurants in Champaign-Urbana and the movies. We would go to a restaurant, we'd have a black couple and a white couple. And the black couple would go in first, the white couple would come along and sit where they could hear. And when they refused to serve us, we would explain to them that they had just then passed the bill, the federal bill that they had to serve us. And we would see how this figured out, you know, legally, et cetera, et cetera. But they still wouldn't serve us, we'd leave. And the white couple was there to verify our experience. And by the next time we went back, somebody else had gone to them and explained about the law. And so therefore, they were ready to serve us.
Well,
And
now,
the same thing with the movies.
well, now then, I guess,
And so there were people there who had an outlook that I had not experienced before, and I loved it.
so what was your experience the first time you went to vote? What was that experience like?
I don't remember that so well because voting was not a problem in Illinois.
And Texas?
I remember I had, you know, you had to pay a poll tax. Oh, and that $1.25, I had to decide whether I was gonna buy something to eat with it or pay the poll tax. I paid it, I didn't starve to death. And so voting actually became something that I've done religiously. Yeah.
So now, when we look at today and the importance of voting and how we somehow are overlooking the importance of voting, what would you say to the generation or to those that are really not acute of voting and thinking that voting is important?
I'm here to tell you that I'm a precinct chair. And I've got 2 precincts where I live. And so, I don't know how legal it is, but
We on tape now.
when I get that write-in ballot and I study it, I sort of talk to my people about it before they come to the polls. I kind of let them know what's on it and why. And so I have a pretty good turnout in my precinct. We've got the NAACP that does a decent job. We've got voter education groups. We do fairly well in that town getting the vote out.
You're in Las Vegas, and we know how the vote goes in Las Vegas, and one time it was known as the Mississippi of the West. So that means there was a lot of problems with people having the opportunity to vote or not getting the opportunity to vote. Did you ever feel that it would change and be what it is today, where we have so many representatives that are black in our legislative office?
I think I didn't see ahead that far, but I saw ahead far enough to try to pick out the best person when I voted.
You educate yourself, as she said, it's important to educate yourself.
Uh-huh.
Well, then I would say that if we're just looking at voting and we can look at many different other things, what are some of the difficulties that you had to overcome besides maybe discrimination or maybe where somebody had an opportunity to hold you back and not think that you was qualified? How did you overcome and achieve those items in front of you? You want to go for it? I can see this.
I don't know, there were times, there were plenty of times when you couldn't try on the clothes that you wanted to buy, or the shoes. You had to buy them, hope that they fit, you know. You couldn't go to the tea rooms in the department stores. I remember an attorney taking me to a tea room in Strickland's, and we had lunch together there. Nobody said a word.
Now, was this a white attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had a good time, you know? But that was not the norm. Our schools were segregated. They handed the books down from the white schools to the black schools. They were all marked up sometimes the pages were torn out, that sort of thing.
Was there anything ever derogatory because they would know that they would pass these books down to the Negro students? Did anybody write some things in there knowing that y'all would be reading this, or they would black out some of the sentences?
I just know, I knew about torn pages. I knew about pages that were mutilated, torn off, or torn out. But no, I didn't get that racist stuff. But you knew your place. Hello.
Yeah.
You knew where not to be or what you should do so that you didn't get called down or somebody told your mother that you were out of line. You knew. And so it bothers me to this day that there's still people who feel like they still have to be in their place. They still don't want to challenge the status quo.
Well, now, I would think that we're in our day and age now, we have something called the critical race theory.
Please don't ask me about that, because I think it's ridiculous. Critical race theory? What is that supposed to mean? Oh, hey, we've got this system where we're all trying, and I promise you, to work as one people. And I advocate freedom is for everybody. I'm talking about not black people, not Texas people, not one. I'm talking about freedom is for everyone. And we need to be about the business of passing that message on. I know people who, well, I tell people, make yourself a committee of one. You know people who aren't on the same page you are on, and so change their minds. And their minds can be changed. Not gonna happen in a day, but you can change people's minds. And if we took a meeting of 500,000 signatures to Congress, and when the bill was being written, we were called to the White House, we were prepared to take that many more. Can't you think of 3 million people being on the same page? We could turn this country around. I'm just forgive me for my
Well, now, Sister Toland,
yes.
how do you feel about the critical race theory?
How do I feel?
How do you feel about the critical race theory?
I think it's a matter of they don't want the truth. And we have lived the truth. And even some of I remember us saying forever that they don't pay attention to anything that's wrong for us until it happens to them.
Yeah.
And then they really get excited. And I'm looking at this Russian business right now.
Okay.
And they're excited. I don't know that they've ever gotten excited over anything for Blackpool.
Okay.
Or if they have, I haven't read about it.
Or come up with $40 billion to help black
Yes,
people.
I mean, since all of this has happened, they have had a lot of special efforts and papers about the Jewish people, about the Asian people, and just barely something when another black person is killed. Just barely. But nothing for $1,000, let alone billions and billions.
Well, now, I would ask then, what advice do you give to the next generation in looking at these issues that we're discussing today and how they can forefront and make a change?
Well, this next generation has to learn that the emphasis that Americans have spent on spending money to make us look good should be passed. We don't have to impress the man who's selling us expensive clothes. We don't have to dress up when we can't afford to spend the money. And there is such a thing as squeezing a dime and trying to save a nickel of it. And these are American isms that we have to get rid of.
Next, okay, how do you feel? What advice would you share with that next generation to make a change?
I tell those youngsters that they need to get all the cotton picking education they can. Now I know college, university, not for everybody. We don't have any guns, so we must use our minds. And we need to impress on the youngsters that they have what it takes. They are as good or better than anybody around them. Black, white, blue, or green. And so, I know youngsters need freedom to express themselves, but Lord knows they learn to read and write, and be a part of math. I mean, to learn math. They got to learn these things. I had 4 children. I taught them to read as young. I don't know how young they were, but those kids knew if they had a book in their hand, keeping the house clean wasn't the most important part. In fact, it looked like the hind heels of hell. But I had a boy who kept a book in his back pocket. You know, those kids were sharp. They were mine, but they were sharp. And that doesn't mean that the kids aren't gonna goof off. My oldest, when I sent her to college in North Texas State, she did goof off. I sent her to Paul Quinn, our church school, she goofed off some more. When her daughter got a degree from Texas Wesleyan, she went and got 2. So you know that adage about you can't, take the horse to the water, you can't make them drink. But she did get it. And her daughter is judge of the Northern District of Texas. And that daughter has twins One's an autistic child that we love with all our hearts. The other, second-year Harvard. All you gotta do is stay home. And they ain't gonna want you to put your foot in their back and make them read and write and do their work. But you have to. That's your responsibility. Because they are the ones who are gonna get us out of this quagmire that we are in. And we're not free yet. As long as we've got the joblessness and the homelessness and climate change and health care that some of us can get and the others can't. Oh, they bring me up here to preach.
No, I ain't got a basket either, so it ain't preaching unless I got a basket. But now, where did this fire come from that you emit, even at your young age?
I don't know whether you call it fire. I just know I'm part of a generation that went through some things, and we can tell the younger ones, you don't have to make these same mistakes. Listen to what happened to us. And you don't have to do that. You can circumvent that. And you've got plenty of time to get married and have babies. Plenty of time. So for God's sakes, get your education. And women know that there's so many of us who aren't going to get married and find a husband to look after. So for heaven's sakes, be able to take care of yourself. I'm still preaching.
Well, no problem. Now, you mentioned that you had 4 children. How many grandchildren do you have?
26, and I stopped counting the great-grands and the great-great-grands.
That's a legacy in itself.
Could I tell you about,
Well, this is conversation. That's for you to tell us about.
I want to tell you about Grace Renee. She's not quite 2 yet, and she's being raised by her father. And they live around Houston, and I'm in Galveston to do the 2.5-mile walk that I do to symbolize that the enslaved didn't know they were free for 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And I'm to walk in Galveston 2.5 miles, and I said, Lord, they're gonna have to put me in a wheelchair. So Joe brought Grace Renee, in her stroller. And this great-great-grandma got a hold of that stroller. We made the 2.5 miles. I tell everybody, Grace Renee saved my life.
Ms. Toland, what about yourself?
Well, I feel that from my experiences, I have to share experiences that will be helpful to people. And the experience that I'm really passionate about is our relationship and our knowledge of our homeland, Africa. If you get by my house, you will see I have a yard with statues that I brought over from Africa so black people in Las Vegas could see some of the work of black people and cousins and so forth in Africa today. And people come over and they look at the statues and they say, nobody ever told us. We never see anything about our homeland, Africa, in the paper. Unless it's, well, yes, I won't say never. I will say it's either disease, or they don't even put elephants and lions in the paper. But they think that that's all people in Africa have, is elephants and lions. And
Well, we still got some people think Tarzan is hanging out too.
still have what?
Tarzan, they still think Tarzan is still hanging out too.
Well, yes, they have that. So my passion is whenever I can, I put in a word that's about Africa. And I must tell you this, I get excited about it. A month ago, I found out that they had built a great wall in Benin, just by Nigeria, 12 or some hundred, 1,000 years before they built the Great Wall in China. Nobody ever told me, and I've been to Nigeria, but that Great Wall that they built there is gone. But you know what I did? I talked with a woman about it, and she had her, had been tested to see what her blood was, and there was 25% from Benin. And I don't know, but when I got back home, there was a little folder like this about Benin, and I rushed out and got 50 copies made. And you can't come to my front door without me.
That's it. Well, Mama Toland, as we call you here in Las Vegas, we're gonna wrap up. So we would like to know, from your own words, as you have been all afternoon, what would you like to surmise and summarize what we've been talking about today?
Get knowledge. Get knowledge that seems like nothing at that point, but if you can put your head in it sometime during your lifetime, it will be a help. And we get education is gotten so many more places than just in school. In school if you can, but if you can't, wherever you can, pick up all of the knowledge that's floating around and seek an understanding of it.
Thank you. And Miss Lee, Queen Lee, what would you like to, and you can preach if there's preaching that you desire.
Listen, I have never, ever wanted to go to Africa, but I'm going.
It's never too late.
My grandchildren went and accepted an award for me in Africa. But I have Googled and read about this mother in Africa who's 40 years old and has 38 living children by the same father. There were 42 children, but she lost 6 of them. She is trying to educate those children the best she can. She puts great store by education. Me, I want to go and take her decent housing. Now, I freak out over container housing. And I can see myself, I got this Nobel Prize thing under my belt that I may or may not win. And if I don't win, all my beautiful friends who are gonna help me get 8 containers that are equipped for living to take to Africa to that family. I glory in that woman's spunk. She has kept 38 children together. Do you hear me?
That's a village in a village.
Oh, I want to meet her.
I do. I got that right. You want to add something there, Sister Toland?
I want to say that, and I can't make it plain enough, that they do not predict or show anything about Africa that is good. But when you go there, sometimes you wouldn't even know you were in Africa because they have everything in Africa that we have here, and black folks are running it. And
Airports,
that's right,
steamships.
that's right.
Okay.
And when all of the stewardess and stewardess on South African Airlines stood up and had their picture taken for me on that South African airline,
I know it.
I was in heaven.
I bet you, I bet you, I bet you.
Well, my 2 glorious queens, I want to thank you for this opportunity to have spoken to you and to hear your conversation and being brought forth for the legacy of all that will look at this and think about it, that they missed a grand opportunity of not being in the 89106 here at the West Las Vegas Arts Center to have this opportunity as our guests that are in the audience. And I would like to give you a round of applause for your participation today and your story. It's been a wonderful story, and it's one that I would treasure amongst all of those that we have in our repertoire. And for those that need to know the future of this presentation and where it will be able to be viewed at, you would go to www.bluesoul, that's BLUSOUL productions.com. And we will be having that on the link there for this, but to pass on for all future generations to see. So once again, I want to thank you all.